Well, hello and welcome to Upclose and Personal with some of the best Toastmasters I've ever seen or had the privilege to interact with. It's been a great pre-meeting meeting. Today we're here gathered to focus on Limitless You, the District 91 conference held at the 3rd to 5th of May. And today people can listen in from across the world, across the country, and can interact with, can interact and hear up and close these people that we're about to interview now. My name is Jeffrey Grace, and I will be acting as compere, as the interviewer, as best as I possibly can. Now, this is all about getting up close and personal with these champions and TED talkers. And what I want to do is just make it informal. And the metaphor that I've set for the group is to be like as if we were sat in an airport lounge, just to be, if they've just, all of them have just given some amazing speeches, which they consistently all do, by the way, and they've all been sat there, and suddenly I rock up and I just start talking to them and ask questions and go from there. And that's the kind of way I want to play with this and work with it. So rather than have me try to read out all the accolades and attributes and amazing achievements that these people have done, what I thought we would do, in the spirit of table topics, in the spirit of the legendary elevator pitch, is to ask them just who they are, where they're from, what they've done, and it gives them the opportunity to warm up as well for the platform and just to find out, so you can find out a bit more about them as well. So I thought I'd start off alphabetically. I'm joining them virtually. I'm coming across and saying hello, and I just thought in around about, I think, minute and a half, 2 minutes should be enough, hopefully. And I thought I'd do it alphabetically, so I thought I'd start with Gillian. Gillian Haslam, your surname is first. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you've done. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I had some problem connecting. But where am I from? I'm from London. I'm from Hertfordshire Speakers. And originally, I came to London from India. And I've been with Hertfordshire Speakers in London for about 13 years.
Okay. And these days, what do you do? You're doing speaking now. I mean, where are you doing that? What sort of things have you done in your speaking as a Toastmaster?
I've done all kinds of things. I usually do corporate speaking.
Okay.
I have spoken at organizations like the Bank of England, Bank of America, Barclays, and all of them. I've been very fortunate, actually, because when I grew up in India, I was very lucky. I got my first job out of 250 girls working as an executive secretary for the CEO of Bank of America. And then I worked my way up to being the head of charity and diversity for the bank. So when I got transferred to England, I worked for RBS. And yeah, that's how I started.
And you've done TED Talks, is that right?
Yes, I've done 6 TED Talks so far.
And I think one of them, I mean, there are quite a few views, I understand, some of them.
Yes, actually, the time I really lost my fear was when I did my first TED Talk in Ireland in Stormont. And I was ready to run away and give up. But I stayed with the help of a great mentor, Bob Ferguson. I stayed, and I was very, very fortunate.
All right.
And I basically, by the time I took the flight from London from Ireland back to the UK, I had 50,000 views on the speech, and now I think it's about 350,000 or something like that.
And also, I mentioned, although I've just rocked up to you virtually in the virtual lounge, I also heard through the grapevine you've founded 3 charities, no less. Is that true?
Yes, 6 charities. I received
sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It grows every year. I'm trying to get back my camera at the same time. But yes, 6 charities. I received the Mother Teresa International Memorial Award, but it's all thanks to Toastmasters.
Okay. Fabulous. That's so lucky to meet you. And if anyone wants to find anything more about you, how can they find anything more about what you do and how you do it?
They can go to my website, which is just my name, gillianhaslam.com.
Okay.
And I think they can find everything there, even the charity sites they can get to from my main website.
Fabulous. Well, that's fantastic. What a great intro. So Richard, sorry, I don't know you. The gentleman there of the group who I've just met sat in the lounge. Hello, sir. Who are you? Where are you from? What you've done? What you're doing? Enlighten us. Enlighten us.
Well, I'm sitting here in Colorado in the United States. It's going to be a beautiful day outside, so hopefully I won't be in my basement all day long. I've been in Toastmasters for 1 month short of 25 years. I've been known as a serial contestant. I've competed in 160 different contests so far, with district coming up in just 2 weeks and 2 days. Not that I'm keeping track. I've got 6 kids, one wife, at least at the moment. And that's pretty much my story.
Wow, and you've made and was I right in thinking you've made to the World Championship finals? Was it, how many times have you done that?
It was twice back in 2008 when LaShonda Rundles won, and the movie Speak was made about that particular voyage for all of us in '08, and then in '06, which was a little bit cheerier for me because I managed to take third that particular year.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, fabulous. That's okay. Well, remarkable. Thank you for coming and joining us. Madam Linda, you there? Hello. Could you share with us where you're from, what you've done, and who you are?
Wonderful. I'm a South Florida girl. I grew up in Key West and South Miami. I currently live in Durham, North Carolina, which is as far north as I have ever lived because I do not like being cold. I don't like the snow. My career in speaking started 24 years ago when I became a certified experiential trainer, which is one of the reasons I think I come at speaking a little differently, because I don't come to speak words, I come to create an experience in the room. And being a certified experiential trainer, that's what that's all about. I'm an ICF certified coach, an ontological coach. Also, I think helps me be a great speaker because ontology is the study of beingness. So I don't come out to speak a message, I come out on stage to be a message. And when you be a message, you are remembered a lot longer. I joined Toastmasters 6 months before I entered the contest in 2020. I didn't even know what Toastmasters was. A colleague just invited me at lunch and I went, and then I joined our club. And then someone said there was a contest. And so I was shocked to learn in the contest there's another level and another level. And then someone said, if you get so far, you get to go to Paris, which I was pretty keen on doing. And of course, it went virtual. So I came in second in the world in 2020. And then in 2021, I wasn't able to compete. 2022, I competed again and made it to the finals in Nashville, not Paris. I don't even like country music, so that was a disappointment that I got to finals again in Nashville. And I had the distinct honor of people walking out of my speech on the final stage. So, and
Really?
in 2020, where I came in second, I got hate mail and death threats from the speech I delivered. So I've been called the visionary provocateur, an inspirational interrupter, and sometimes just a plain troublemaker. But I speak to really try to pivot people's thoughts and their feelings about certain topics. So that's what I do, and I speak more about the topics I speak about. I get invited. So from my final speeches, I get a lot of speaking invitations, more because of the content of my speeches, not because I'm a finalist. But so that's it. That's my story. I also am a teacher of, so where they can find me, I also teach a year-long certification course called Speaking Mastery in Action, where I teach students all of the tools in my toolbox, because as an experiential trainer and an ontological coach, I have lots of tools in my toolbox that is not taught in Pathways. It is not taught in any other speaking domain. And so it's a year-long certification course. It is rigorous. It's not easy. But someone can reach me at my email or on my website if they'd like, lindamariemiller.com. Send me a contact there and I can send you information.
Right, I've got two things to do that, and first is I've got to Google ontological coach. I don't even know what it is. So that's the first thing I'm going to learn in interacting with you And the second thing I'm going to do is apologise to Richard because I didn't give him a chance to share if I wanted to find him. But I do actually want to get hold of him. We spoke beforehand. So Richard, if I want to speak to you directly, what's the best way to get in contact with you? Amateur schoolboy error, forgot to ask you, Richard. Jump back in.
All right. Well, if you want to talk to me, look in the chat because I just put in a link so you can make an appointment with me to talk for 15 minutes. No cost. I'm not charging anyone. Just talk to me. I want to meet you. But you can also check my website out at richhopkins.com or go to any social media and look up Rich Hopkins. And I'm just pretty much everywhere. But what I do is I work with people to help them discover, develop, and deliver their best message, whether they are just starting out or they have to speak for their business, speak in business, or maybe they're even an established keynoter that just needs to refresh what they're doing or maybe start over a little bit.
Oh, very well. Yeah. I'm just being overwhelmed with all this. It's just awesome between all of you. But of course, it's not even over as I join you. Alphabetically, our last speaker is called Verity Price, and I'd be fascinated if she could share what she's done, where she's been, and where she's from. Over to you, Verity.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'd have to say, if this really was an airport lounge and this was the group of people I was with, I would be hoping that my plane was going to be delayed so we could keep chatting. It's absolutely incredible and so inspiring to be here. I am coming to you from Cape Town, South Africa. I was born in Zimbabwe, grew up in South Africa, travel on a British passport, so I don't get to vote anywhere. I think of myself as a citizen of the world. I was someone who was so afraid of speaking in public that I used to put a thermometer in a cup of tea to try and fake a temperature to get out of speaking at school. And I was never going to speak if that was up to me. But on my 20th birthday, out of nowhere, I felt inspired to start writing, and I realized I'd written lyrics to a song, and they just kept coming. It took me 7 years to get on a stage, to work with a coach, to learn how to sing, to face my fear. And what I learned in that was that if there's a message in you that's bigger than your fear, you'll find a way to face it. And I went from singing to crowdfunding my first album and not becoming a famous pop star, which was my plan. But everyone was like, please come tell us about this crazy project you did, asking people to buy an album you haven't recorded, because this was in the early 2000s, before crowdfunding was a thing. And I found myself thrust into the world of speaking, which, as I said, wasn't my plan. So my ego didn't enjoy that. My ego was convinced I was meant to be getting a Grammy. And my soul just kept knocking, saying, no, you're here to teach. You're here to help people, face their fears, live their dreams. And I came into Toastmasters in 2011 for fun. I was already a professional speaker, lost my first contest to my sister, who went all the way to the world semifinals, which my ego did not enjoy. Only entered again in 2015, where I came third at division. My ego was horrified, so I swore I would never compete again. In fact, I left Toastmasters to become a mom. And because of lockdown, I rejoined for community when we were all stuck at home. And I felt this crazy calling after watching Linda Marie and Mike Carr's Zoom performances. I couldn't believe people could do that in the online space. And I felt this calling to compete in 2021. I had what I call a positive premonition that I was going to win. And I kept saying to myself, don't think that. It's ridiculous to think that. But working harder than I've ever worked in my life, I was able to become the 2021 World Champion of Public Speaking. And I still pinch myself that it happened. But the best part of it happening is I now get to help people find their voice, tell their stories, and present with power, which is the best part of it. Way more than me being on a stage. It's helping someone else get their story out into the world.
Wow, super impressive, amazing stuff there. And yeah, I love all that, teach and believe. It's just wonderful. And of course, if anyone wants to get hold of you, how can they find you, Verity?
A good theme here today. We just go with our name. So verityprice.com. It's got everything that I do there. People can schedule 15-minute free discovery calls with me if they want to find out about working with me. But yeah, and social media, I'm always sharing content and tips and tricks on how I believe we can present in our most powerful, authentic way.
You know,
At Verity Price Speaks.
Thank you very much for that, Verity. You know, one thing my mentor said when he was no longer with us, sadly, a great man whose name I'll call now, Gordon Piggott, and he always said to me, when you meet these great speakers, and I view all of you as that, it's surprising just how human they actually are. And they're just everyday folks. And so thank you, all of you, for just that initial intro. Now, I do have some questions for you. I wanted to avoid the usual trap of, like, you know, talking about your successes and these things, what's it like to do this or walk on this stage. I really wanted to try to bridge the gap to people who, like myself, who look to, you know, like you guys, and think, okay, what's the difference that makes a difference in the background? And I just wanted to start one off. The first thing I wanted to ask you is, a lot of people, you know, the competition is a big theme here. And obviously there'll be the District 91 conference champion will be selected. But a lot of people have an if-then mindset when it comes to the contest. And it's sort of, and I'm sure you know what I mean, but I'll just reiterate it. You know, if I achieve level X, then I can potentially do something Y. You know, if I get to this point here, then I can permit myself to go and do something that, you know, that I enjoy more. Because a lot of people love the meetings, they're inspired by them, they want it, but then of course the meeting ends, they go back to their everyday jobs, and they want to bridge that gap, and they bank on the contest to do that. And if somebody's doing that, and that's their mindset about it, what would you say if somebody, with regards to success at any level, what would your advice to them be? And obviously I just asked you to, you know, I don't have an order for this. Any one of you wants to jump in, you can. That's absolutely fine. What's your thoughts on that panel?
I have a thought on it. I tell contestants that I coach that if you are in the contest to get a trophy and think you're going to be famous after you're the world champion, you will get a lot of speaking offers for free in Toastmasters. You will not be offered any $25,000 keynotes, because delivering a speech on the final stage is very, very different than speaking from a stage, other stages. So I would say this is what I say to contestants. I say, if you make it to the final stage, 50,000 people are going to be watching you. Make it count. Don't waste that final speech on something like, don't let fear stop you. That's not really going to change the world. You've got that kind of audience. Use it to do something magnificent in the world. So that's what I say. So it's not an if-then, if you get to the final stage, or even if you win, and Verity can speak to this, it's not like $25,000 keynotes are lining up when you walk out the door. So a lot of free speaking can happen. If that's what you're into, and a lot of you're a very famous person, big fish in a very small pond. So I say that's what I'd say about it.
Does anyone else have anything on that?
I'd love to weigh in, because I think what hit me after I won was, every year only one person gets to win this. So if everyone was entering because they wanted to win, there's no point in entering. So I was like, why do we enter this? And what really hit me is, yes, one person wins, but every other contestant grows. And the growth, it's choose the growth, not the win. Because I mean, I now see when I coach people, sometimes, and judging can be off, and suddenly we see funny results in contests. You are not guaranteed the win. Even if you had the best speech on the day, that win is not guaranteed. But if you grow as a person, if you are better, a better speaker, if your message has touched a heart, made a difference, as Linda Marie said, you've made that 7 minutes count. That's the growth. So choose that. If you're going to compete, then choose the growth.
Yeah, that's I like that. I think, I mean, it's sort of a background level for this group to say, oh yes, making the world championship. Say some people would just dream to have made district and got close to district, and like, oh, I never made district. I really wanted to. And I think if you Yeah, that's a very fair point. I think a lot of, I'm hoping, I know I certainly resonate with it. Does anyone else want anything on it, Gillian or Richard? But if you don't, I can move on to the next question. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I think, given my background, I love the question because given the complexity of life, we just have to understand that life does not work in straight lines. And I believe that when you get a golden opportunity like that, you should just grab it. You should grab it with both hands and make the best of it and try not to kind of hope that tomorrow will bring better things, because I think tomorrow's our past and we can't worry about the future. We only have the present and we have to take what's given to us when it's given. That's what I think.
That's a great one. It's a great one. I don't know if you're aware of this, Richard. If not, I can move in.
I do have something, actually, believe it or not.
I thought you might.
Having competed almost every year since 2001, when I got lost going to the area contest, and the guy who won that area contest ended up on the finals stage with Darren LaCroix. Well, what I have noticed for myself is that you have to be careful not to let your goal also become an obstacle. Because if that's your goal and you aren't going to do what you think you're going to do when you're going to achieve that goal, just because you haven't achieved that goal, then you're just creating an excuse for yourself not to do what you really should be doing in the first place. If you've got to go to district to say, I'm a coach and a speaker now, I can try to go out and make a living, I can go do what I want to do, I can go speak to Rotary, whatever your goal might be, if you feel you have to win area or division or district or the world championship, you're just setting yourself up to potentially and most likely fail. As Verity said, since only one person wins every year. So don't let that goal be your obstacle. And Linda Marie is looking at me like, yeah, are you telling yourself that, Rich? Are you looking in the mirror?
Wow. Yeah,
That's powerful.
It is powerful, yeah, and I thank you for that one alone. I think if people tuned in just for that alone, we've got plenty of time left. That's fantastic. Segueing onto that, I'd like to move into my next question. And all of you now, that really works well, actually, what we've just said. All of you now are professional speakers. People come to you. You've translated your passion into a means of earning money, and that's it's your calling. It's what you do. At what point, though, and it's harking back to what Richard just said, at what point did you say to yourself, you know what, I'm good enough to do this? I'm someone who, at what point, I'm worthy. It's not just something that you think or believe, but actually deep down know. At what point did that come to you? And it may be that you're still chasing it, but I'm assuming you're not. What point did it come? You know what? I can do this. I'm good enough to make this who I am, what I do, and how I do it. What do you reckon? What's your thoughts? Didn't want to jump in on that one?
I can jump in, but I just talked, so I'm not gonna.
Fair
I was
enough.
first last time. I didn't want to jump in and be first.
So you want me to pick then? In that case, then over to you, Verity. Are you able to answer that one?
I was trying to be polite. It's such a great question, because for me, whenever people reach out and go, how do I become a professional speaker? And what's the formula? And I go, there is no formula as far as I know. It's a very organic process, because that was my experience. And I spoke for free. I was speaking to sell an album. So I would go anywhere where I could pitch my idea, saying, please buy my album that doesn't exist. And then that evolved. People were like, can you maybe come talk to our business about how you've been doing that album? We're quite fascinated. And I didn't think what I was doing was going to become a business. And I can't actually remember when someone paid me for it. But you see, I was already getting paid to sing. So it was maybe the transition was like, okay, now this is a new form of not entertainment, but maybe edutainment. But it was, as I say, I actually went through quite a severe depression when I realized my singing wasn't happening. And I was resisting the speaking that was saying, speak for us, speak for us. I get booked all over the world, and I'd say, can I bring my band? And they'd say, no, we don't want you to sing, which is hard when you're trying to be a pop star. But I don't know when it happened, but at some point I realized that the story of the thinking I'd used, that's what people wanted. That was they didn't want my singing. They wanted to know, how can we solve our problems? And when I realized that that was valuable, I became comfortable receiving money for it.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting point about being, comfortable, with doing that. I've people have said to me on similar things. Oh, you should be charging this or paying this. No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. It's an interesting transition. I think a lot of people, not just in the world of speaking, but because it's not just about speaking. We're about leadership as well, and it's not about people, moving up perhaps in their company or applying for jobs and using their skills in Toastmasters to do that. So it's not just about speaking. It's about going for it in life and believing that you have that. And we'll come to that. I've got other questions related to that. But I don't have to pick anyone. Richard, go on. I'm going to pick you.
Okay.
I'll jump in this time.
Well, 20 years ago this month, actually, I was in my Toastmasters club. We had just ended the meeting. We had a guest who was in the back talking to a couple people, and then he came up to me and he said, I need someone to coach me for my Father of the Bride speech. And they all said, you're the best guy in the club. I said, okay. He says, what do you charge? How about $100? So I charged him $100, and I spent the next 6 weeks meeting with him, drawing out his life with his daughter. We built the speech. Now, he was German, so maybe he was Austrian. I don't know. He was foreign to an American. He had a heavy accent, and he was not an emotional man. We built this emotional speech for him. I coached him on how to speak it. And as it turns out, over that time, he kept giving me these little bonuses, and he paid me $1,000 after it was all said and done. Turns out that wedding was on top of a castle in Vienna. Because he was a very rich real estate investor. Who knew? And I still have his testimonial actually in a pile of papers next to me right now. And that was the moment I realized that I could do it, that I was good at it, and that I wanted to do it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a story. I'm sure you must have something here, Linda.
I always have something to say. I have one purpose in life, and this is what I say. And it's not a very big thing. It's not teaching people how to earn 7-figure incomes. My purpose in life is to have people get that they matter. And I discovered that purpose when I was 42 years old. And my original coaching was called Divorce Without Damage. And I would coach couples going through divorce that were committed to not using attorneys and not going in to create a bloodbath in court and decimate the lives of their children and pay all their money off to attorneys. And I would coach them through the divorce. And at the end of it, they would have something called an after marriage, where it would be in the paper. They would announce it. Each of them would invite their friends and their families and new relationships if they were in them. And they'd stand in front of their friends and family and read a letter to each other, talking about the gifts they'd received from each other and talk about what's next for each other. So after that, I started coaching people in what's called Life of No Regrets coaching. And because I'm an ontological coach and an experiential trainer, I don't have any judgments about anything. So if somebody was married for 48 years on their way to their 50th wedding anniversary and they haven't loved the person for the last 20, I would coach them into leaving the marriage and go find the love of your life. I come without any judgment. I just want people to get that they matter. So when I coach people, especially people in the contest, I coach them to, first of all, get in touch with how they really feel about this subject and what difference that subject could make in the world and whose life it could touch. The second thing I coach on is stop worrying about what you look like. Because if you care about people and you care about your message and you don't care what you look like on stage, I don't care if there's snot running down your face and you're crying. Don't try to wipe it off. Be the message. And the benefit of that also is when people deliver and you coach someone to deliver a speech that way, a side effect is that everybody I coach has won a trophy. So when you are vulnerable, which is every speaker's superpower, although many of them don't want to tap into it, you can actually change the world and win trophies at the same time.
Wow. I'm just loving it. This is so great. I'm enjoying this stuff. Thank you for that great message there, Linda. And obviously, Gillian, you're a TEDx talker. You're now setting up your charity. You've done so much. What's your thoughts on the question? Do you have anything to add on that one? Or shall I move? I can move on if you don't. It's fine. Or do you?
I do, Jeff.
Good. Good.
You know, when they say, I'm not good enough, I think if you can just imagine for a moment a family, a British family growing up in an Indian slum where almost 3,000 people shared 3 toilets. And we then grew up under a flight of stairs for a very long period of my life. So you can imagine we did go to a boarding school, a free boarding school, but you do grow up with that feeling of, I'm just not good enough. I don't have enough and I will never be enough. But it's only when I joined Toastmasters and I went through all, you know, the pathway program, etc. And then you get yourself to a point where you've delivered a few speeches all around the place, and then you get this call to a TEDx speech in Stormonton Island, and you look at this magnificent building up on the hill, and you think, I just run away from here because I can't do it. And then they have a speaker's dinner, and you think, I'm just not one of them. Like, I'm not good enough. And then you stay, your mentor through post Toastmasters, and you stay and you deliver that speech, and you can see the counter. The hall is just packed with probably 3,000 to 4,000 people, and then you have the counter moving with people online, and you're getting even more nervous. But then you deliver that speech, and by the time you make it back from Ireland to London, you've got 50,000 views of that one speech, and you know, yes, finally, I do think I'm enough now. You know.
Well, that's fantastic. You definitely are enough, and bless you for come once again and sharing your story and being here again. I'll probably say it about 7 or 8 more times till the end of this meeting. But that's a great segue into a question I'd like to ask: the dreaded imposter syndrome. We all know it. We've all faced it. I don't know if it ever goes away. And I guess a question that a lot of people would have asked, you know, and you've just answered this, to be fair, Gillian. So I want to ask you again, but I'm just going to ask the others. You know, do you ever? Simple question. You know, do you ever get imposter syndrome as the champions that you are and where you've been? Do you ever get that, Verity?
Yes, so badly. I think it was probably the most confronting thing about becoming a world champion was realizing that the imposter inside me also won the trophy and was going, really? You think you got this? Maybe they made a mistake. I was saying before the call started, going, someone else might have got knocked out who was better than you. So it was a tug of war. And then getting to meet other world champions who I've put on a pedestal my entire Toastmasters career. They're other than me. I'll never belong there. And suddenly I'm on a WhatsApp group with champions, and then getting to know everyone. We're all just human. I think you said that earlier. Speakers they're human, and they're real, and they're vulnerable. And I think it's going on for everyone. And I also think the good thing about imposter syndrome, and I can't remember who told this to me, or someone just said, people who suffer from imposter syndrome, it's because they care. It's because they want to do a good job, and they're not complacent. Because when you're complacent, you might not think you're an imposter. But if that's still there, it means you're still upping your game. So that's what makes me work harder, keep learning, keep trying. But my word, she's on for the ride, whether I like it or not.
I thank you. I think a lot of people will be, to hear a world champion say, yes, it's just, it gives them that permission. Yes, even world champions feel that. I've not till now, in all my Toastmastering days and researching, heard a world champion say up till now. So even for that, I feel relieved. But what about the rest of you? What's your thoughts on it, Richard? Do you ever get imposter syndrome?
Well, I'm a Gemini, so there's me and there's my twin, the imposter. So, yeah, pretty much all the time. But if you ask my wife, I have just enough arrogance, confidence that I manage to get past it most of the time. Usually, when I'm in public, I was told once when I was going up to compete that I have this competition presence, that I'm a different guy when I get up on stage, even though I'm not. I'm still authentic. I don't become speaker man, but it's more that I'm very quiet, very introverted, very not quite ready to move forward when I'm where I'm at right now, but not on a Zoom call. When I'm on my computer thinking about what it is I have to get done, the content I need to create, the people I need to reach out to be that public person in my private life so that I can create the successful career that I really want to have. And maybe I'm being a little bit too real. Maybe I'm telling people a little bit too much right now, but virtually every successful speaker you think you see out there, you think they're more successful than they actually are. And they're doing their best, but you don't see any of us with private planes.
No, I was going to make a quip actually to Verity about that and say, have you had to return the private jet and the helicopter and everything? I'm guessing it must have been a real. It must hand it over must have really burned. I've got to give it back now. But yeah, that's great.
Jim Key had a joke where he's still waiting for the Brinks truck to back up in front of the house, which for our international folks, the Brinks truck is full of money because they go to banks and they protect money from bank to bank.
Well, I remember Lance Miller phoning me because he was my coach, and after I won, he said, "Welcome to the club. This is the quickest way to go broke." He said, "You'll see the world and you'll spend all your money while you're doing it."
Yeah, for the benefit of everyone who's entering the contest in District 91, go for it. I feel terrible.
It does change your life. Even if you don't win, the growth changes your life, but it's don't think it comes with a paycheck.
Well, that private jet, I was just holding out for that, man. I was really holding out for that. It's a great shame. Linda, what is your thoughts on that? And the dreaded imposter syndrome. Yeah. I know you're going to blast this away. I just want to hear it. Fire away.
Well, I before I retired, I had a 4-decade career in corporate America as a finance exec, and I was also coaching execs at the time. And it came to my awareness during that 99.9% of the people on this planet are walking around thinking that they aren't good enough. They're not pretty enough. They're not smart enough. The number of CFOs and CEOs that I've coached that were literally waiting just that one day someone in the company was going to figure out they didn't know what the hell they were doing. It was going to come in and was going to make the front page. Everybody is walking around. I thought I was the only one because I had an abusive childhood and a father that told me I'd never be anything. And if you're not first place, you're a loser. And if you're not right, you're wrong. And if you're wrong, nobody needs you. I thought I was the only one. When I realized that everybody in the world, except for maybe one who's running for office in this country to be president.
I'm trying to keep it unpolitical.
No names. No, I didn't say who. I didn't say
okay.
who.
It was in the UK
I didn't
anyway.
say who.
It's all good.
But other than very few number of people, other than that, everyone feels that they're not enough. And so what I coach people to say is, oh, well, so you're not. So now what are you going to do? Now how are you going to change the world? And here's the key to really changing the world and using that imposter syndrome. If you tell the world what you're most afraid it's going to find out about you, you free yourself up and you free up all those other people. So if you are feeling not good enough, give a speech about how you suck. And you will open up everybody in the audience, create resonance with them because they're like, Yeah, me too. I don't. And that's the way to change the world is to be fully revealed, be fully seen, all of who you are. The total, I said in my speech one year, some days I'm a masterpiece, other days I'm a catastrophe. It just depends on what day you get it. So everybody feels the same. We still get to change the world and speak our hearts out.
I love that. I think a lot of people, and myself included, just to hear that from people who've achieved as much as you have, it's just, yeah, okay. It just permits you on that level. And talking of permitting and words of power, now, one thing that's a common theme I found in many a speech and many a speaker who's done well, champions such as yourselves, is that one moment when someone said something to you. And it was those, as much as you just said there, Linda, that somebody spoke bad words to you and you had to fight them, there's those words that they simply spoke to you and they empowered you and changed you and focused you and made you a long way to doing what you've done now. And I was just wondering, you've probably, I don't know if you've almost certainly used them in your speeches. Well, I know you have because I've seen some of them. But those words of power, I just wondered if you could share with me and what they were, who spoke them to you, and and what they meant to you, and just going through that. And I'll pick someone a different order this time. Let's start. Richard, you can go first this time. What were the words that powered you to where you are? Somebody said.
Me? Oh, right. Well, let's see. Let's go back to 2001. Toastmasters again. I've got a mentor by the name of Billy Jones. I used to say she was an old Southern lady, but I am now about the age she was back then. So I'm not going to use the word old. She was just a Southern lady, much like Linda Marie, Southern lady. I had given my first 10 speeches in Toastmasters, had won Best Speaker almost every single time. And she came up to me and said, "Rich, you're a great speaker. I could see you on the stage of the World Championship of Public Speaking. If you would just learn to say something." She saw right through me. I was making up those speeches on the 10-minute car ride from my job to the library for the meeting. I was getting by on charm and humor and the fact that I had little kids to tell stories about. And it changed why I spoke, and it changed the way I treated my audience, the respect I had for their time. And without her building that dream in my head, I wish she'd said she could see me winning the championship, but without that, I don't know where I'd be.
Well, you're entering this year, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got district in 2 weeks and 2 days.
Okay, well, here's to that. Bravo. Let's mix your up. What was the words that were spoken to you, Gillian? What was the words that just changed you? Was there a sentence? Was there a person? Share if you can. If not, don't worry.
Jeff, when I won the Mother Teresa International Memorial Award, they gave me 3 or 4 minutes to spend in the room in Mother House where Mother Teresa had lived. And I was allowed in, they opened the lock and I stood there for just a minute. And I was noticing her bed and her pair of slippers and, things like that. And I had the trophy in my hand and I turned around and I saw the Sister Superior there. And I said to her, I never ever wanted to be a writer or a speaker. I was too scared when I was small. I was locked in a toilet full of giant flying cockroaches by my mom's friend because she felt I was too slow and I would be nothing in my life. And every day she used to put me into that toilet, close the door and put off the light from the outside. So I said to this nun, this is what happened to me. I never ever knew I could be a speaker or an author when I won the Kirkus Star Review for my book, etc. And she just said to me, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it, Gillian, but we see you like a pencil in the hands of God. And that was Mother Teresa's words, actually. And that's what changed everything for me. I started to believe that, yes, I could be someone.
That's amazing. That really is amazing. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. That's really very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That's just great. Linda, what were the words with you?
Well, I think one of the most profound words, not that let me know I'm a great speaker, but told me that I'm on the right track. And it was two people, well, three people. But after in 2022, when I was a finalist and more than a handful of people walked out of my speech because I was talking about my son-in-law who is transgender. I went out, I didn't win in the top three, but I was in the lobby at the convention and a man came up to me and opened his wallet and pulled out a picture of his transgender daughter. And he told me he had never showed that picture to another human being and that he was going to now carry the picture, not tucked away in his wallet, but where a picture belongs and be proud of her. And another man came up to me at that same conference and said that his son is gay. He's sure of it because his son has continually tried to create a conversation with him about it. And he changes the subject at every turn. He didn't want to talk about it. And he said, I'm going up to the hotel room right now to call my son and have that conversation. So to me, when we speak about these things, these difficult conversations or courageous conversations or whatever they would be, we really can change the lives of human beings. And I don't even know the names of those two men, but I know that their lives, their relationships with their children were forever changed after that. And I'm even more encouraged by the third voice that has happened when you said, who says something to me? My husband has been whispering in my ear since he died last July 30th.
Right.
And it started as a whisper and then it got louder, but he's telling me, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And I thought it was maybe for me to go find the checkbook and pay the bills because he took care of all that. And I wanted to keep the lights on. It'd been 3 months and I didn't even know where a checkbook was. I didn't even know what bills to pay. But then when I got that done, I still heard him. And I think it was, that's the message he wanted me to deliver the world. And if anybody is listening to this now or in the future, ask yourself that. You have a message for the world. You have a mission in the world, and I don't know what it is, but take it from a 66-year-old woman with fewer years on this planet than probably most of you. What are you waiting for? Just go ahead and take it on.
I love that. Thank you so much. That's so wealthy. Just once again, I shouldn't be awestruck because I'm hosting, but I am. So thank you for that precious message. I appreciate it so much. The words that inspired you, that made you, what were they with you, Verity?
Gosh, I'm actually quite moved just with everything that's been shared. But when Linda was sharing it, actually, it just made me think about my journey in 2021, trying to work on a speech that I was hoping to give at the finals. And it was the story of my dad and the letter he'd written me. And actually what he said in that letter was, work on an attitude of gratitude, polish your goals daily, and watch for a miracle, because I'm watching too. But in a speech contest, there's two messages there. There's attitude of gratitude, polish your goals daily. So I worked for months trying to go, what was he, how do I paraphrase this? What was he saying? And basically it was like, get a better attitude, write a different story. But I only got to that message 10 days before the finals. I'd had be happy, be grateful, look for the good, change the way you look at things. I tried numerous ways of saying what he was teaching me. And I was practicing at a club in London, actually in District 91. So this feels very fitting. And I was quite overwhelmed by how much feedback I'd been having at all the clubs, but I practiced it. I'd come back to practice at the club and I can't remember the name, sadly. I'm sorry. They'll let me know if they're watching. And one of the ladies unmuted when I finished. And it was the first or second time I was testing that message. And she said, your message has pervaded my soul. And I knew, in that moment, I was like, oh my word, I think this speech might win. And I gave it everything, and I was so lucky that I won. But about 3 weeks after winning, I went onto the YouTube, where they'd posted it on YouTube, and I saw all these comments, and it was quite overwhelming, all these comments. And I was looking through them. It's not always a good thing to look at comments online, but luckily everyone was being very kind at that point. And I got to a really long comment from a young man who'd written the story of they were foreclosing on his house. He was going to have to send the car back. He couldn't make the payments. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. He was sitting like angry, depressed, devastated. What is he going to do for his family? And he said, I just came across this speech, and your message has reminded me that I have the power to change my thinking. I'm picking up my pen. I'm writing a different story. And that was the win for me. That was exactly what Linda Marie was saying. You don't know. And I still, 3 years later, get messages, and tough stories, but they'll say, I'm picking up my pen, I'm writing a different story. And so just that message that I got from that club in London, where she just said, your message has pervaded my soul, it gave me the courage and the conviction to say, right, I'm going. This is my message for the world. I'm going to give it everything. And it really was a pivotal moment.
Wow. Thank you once again. It's difficult hosting this, as it were, because there's so much taken board, and I'm having to think as you do when you're doing the Toastmaster role. And I'm going to so look forward to watching this back and not having to think 2 steps ahead, because it's just so rich, and that was a particularly powerful round from all of you there. We're coming for the last sort of 5 to 6 minutes, talking of time, and I was just wondering if the richest value that we could give the group of people that are going to be listening to this now. And I think we can do maybe a very quick fire round, just a very short thing. And then I want to end with a time capsule question for the future that can be opened in 100 years, because it's the 100th anniversary of Toastmasters, and they'll come back and find this old digital file. I want to try to cram that question, and it's just going to be, so the one after this, I want you to think in the back of your cognition, all of you. I know you can do this, all of you, okay? I want you to think of what would you be saying to people? What time capsule would you leave for people in 21-24 when they dig up the old computer files and look at the people at these conferences? What message would you have for them in the next 100 years? And I think, actually, I was going to ask you 10 seconds advice before someone's about to go live, but I don't think we're going to have time for that in this. So I'm going to ask you all, I'm going to talk a bit longer, a bit slower, because that's a big question. That's a big one. You know, it's a time capsule for 21-24. And in 100 years' time from now, people are going to find this old data and this old files they find and have it there. A Bitcoin are probably worth $1 trillion. But there you are, that's 21-24. What message would you give the people in 100 years' time? And let's start, pause. How do you feel having a crack at that one, Richard?
Well, 100 years from now, chances are people are still going to have access to some sort of digital copy of the movie Speak, which was the documentary made about the 2008 world champion of public speaking, in which I was relatively cast as the protagonist or the antagonist against Lashunda Rundle's protagonist, the bad guy in the movie. She won the world championship. I lost. So forever, I am in a movie where I have lost the world championship. And I was depressed. And it showed in the movie. I had a lot of people asking me how I was doing after they saw the movie, even years later. What that movie turned into was what I talk about in my keynote, which is how to live your win anyway life. How to not let the world define what's a victory for you. You get to choose. You know, sometimes it isn't always achieving that goal. It's the journey to the goal. It's what you learn on the way to the goal. Sometimes it's going after a goal so much that you realize you don't even want that goal anymore, and you need to change the goal. Don't let somebody else define for you if you're winning or losing. Do it for yourself and win anyway.
Okay, thank you. That's brilliant. That's one there. I'm going to put you in this time, Linda. 100 years' time, they're going to open a message. What are you going to say? What's the message to them?
Well, what I would say isn't going to change in 100 years. And so if you're in District 91 today, or celebrating 100 years in Toastmasters, or in 100 years where we're celebrating the 200-year anniversary of Toastmasters, your voice is the most powerful thing you own. That's it. You can change the world by simply opening your mouth and speaking. And nobody ever changed the world with their silence. Nobody. Maybe
Okay.
Gandhi. Maybe Gandhi. So open your mouth, stand up, step in, speak out. You have Toastmasters, which is the best platform to hone those skills. And if you need any more, send me an email.
Brilliant. Love it. Knew you wouldn't let me down. What about you, Gillian? What message do you have for people who look in on this Toastmasters meeting and this weird chap, this funny tie and this old style clothing and all these things, this accent that doesn't sound right because everyone speaks with a different accent then, they're bound to. What would you be saying as a message to the people in 100 years' time, Gillian?
I think, Jeff, success will mean even more to people than what it is now with the way the world is going. So I would say to them that, like Toastmasters and like Ralph's medley, that to remember that success is not just making it through on your own, but always remembering to take others with you.
Okay, beautiful, simple to the point. I think it's a great message. And Verity, let's hear from you on that one.
So I don't think it matters what the time frame is. I believe that at any point in this planet's history, your word is creating your world. The way you speak about yourself, your dreams, your hopes, your desires is creating the experience you're having. So use your word to shape your world. And as Linda said, speak out, share that, have that courage, and take people with you. And I love Rich, win anyway. It doesn't matter what the result is. As long as you go in it with a winning attitude, you're going to have a win in life.
It's beautiful and simple. Well, I know we're coming towards the end of time here. I'm not sure how much longer we do have. And talking of the future, now I've tried to get you to project all of you into the century ahead, but that's for everyone. That's for the district. That's for the world. What about for you? What not in 100 years? What does the future hold? What if I could wave a wand right now and make something happen for you? Because you never know. I might be able to do it. I've done other things. I've done other things. You know, in the future, what would you really want for you? What could I do? What can I make happen for you, Verity?
For me, it's just I want to keep connecting to what matters in life and not chase the illusion of success or material wealth, but to keep remembering to make time for the people that matter and the experiences that fill my soul. That's my focus every day.
Beautiful, that's right. And Richard, I can make it happen. I'm waving at you. Go. What do you want?
I want my last two kids to grow up and move out. It's only a couple of years away. Then I want my wife and I to downsize, move into a condo, and then we can both chase our dreams.
The irony, you've no idea. I'm sat with my son just up there. Bless. Waving the wand, it could happen. What about you, Gillian?
Well, wow. Jeff, I just say that my book, A Voice Out of Poverty, has won a Kirkus Star Review, which again, I never ever dreamt I would ever win, but it won. And it's been asked for by Netflix, so I'm waiting to hear back. So that's my dream.
So you want Netflix to turn it into, well, I hope that happens. I'll certainly watch it. That's for sure. I'm sure everyone else here will as well. But I'll be looking out for that. That'd be fantastic. I don't know how I am for time. I'm just going to keep plodding on as best I can. I don't want to overrun the mark. Timing is critical in Toastmasters, as we all know. But yes, Linda, go on. I've got my wand. Well, it's actually a Sharpie. Okay, don't pull me up on it. It's a Sharpie. I'm firing at you. What can I do for you?
What's next for me? Is that what the question is?
What could you happen ultimately? Yeah, go.
Okay, so right now I'm focused on speaking my good friend Susan Brown out of prison. She's been in prison for 21 years, serving life in prison without parole, and she shouldn't be there. And after 3 years of speaking on her behalf, every opportunity I could in podcasts, we were able to get her a public hearing on March 21st. And now I'm speaking and until Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan releases my friend from prison.
Okay.
That's the
Wow.
power of
Wow.
our voices. That's the power of our
Yeah.
voices, people.
Best of luck with that.
You know,
Wow.
yeah, well, it's certainly been an inspiring time for me. I've had so much shared. I've grown, and you know, they say that you are the sum of you're the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. Well, I've had a short time with you, but I would tell all of you from the bottom of my heart, I'm certainly a stronger, better person. And I know that anyone listening to this, I'm sure they will be inspired by you. And I want to thank you all sincerely, genuinely, and purely for coming here today and sharing yourselves with us in this up close and personal meeting. It's my great pleasure, my great blessing, and my great honor to do it. And on that note, bring this to a close and just say thank you so much and look forward to seeing you sometime in person. Catch you then.